Minister, we've seen huge buy-in from farmers for the acre scheme, and it's great to see such engagement for environmental schemes. It was announced last week, though, that payments that were due in November would only begin to be rolled out next week, with farmers under Acres Cooperation not receiving payments until late February. That will obviously put farmers under huge financial pressure over the Christmas period. Minister, will you consider administering advance payments, and can you detail how many farmers are affected by the delays?
Thanks for raising this, Deputy Cairns, and I've had many queries, as you can imagine, over the last week or so, or last 10 days, since unfortunately we had to announce that we wouldn't be able to pay the number of farmers that we had been working hard to try and pay in December. Acres has been a great success, great uptake. It's actually working out really well in terms of farmers to participate in it. It's on course as well to have very significant and expected payments to farmers in terms of the actual payments that farmers will be due. There was a massive uptake of it. We had expected 30,000 farmers to apply this year. 46,000 applied, and for the first time ever I stepped in then to actually accept all that 46,000. So everybody got into the scheme this year and participated in the scheme this year, and is due a payment. Won't be without a year where they're due a payment as a result of that, because all 46,000 were in. That did put pressure on the administration of the scheme. It put significant pressure on advisors in terms of having to administer that amount, and they did great work in terms of getting the scoring done. I extended the dates for scoring to be completed, given the numbers involved. And the department were working massively hard to try and pay both the cooperation farmers, those in the cooperation stream and those in the general stream, by the end of November, and indeed try and get them done in December. Unfortunately, we ran out of road on that, and it's meant that we haven't been able to pay in terms of the systems development, the checks, and being able to be in place and developed in a way that could do it. Despite everybody's best efforts to get those paid by the end of November or into December, it's not going to be possible to pay all those. It's a source of great disappointment to all of us, to me as Minister, and indeed to the team that's working on that. What we will be able to achieve is we'll be able to pay 18,000 farmers next week. Those in the general scheme. Those in the cooperation scheme, because it's more complicated in terms of system development, it will be early February before they can commence payments. So, listen, everybody's working hard to do this. I grew up on a farm. I know the importance of waiting on payments to come in, and I know this is a real blow to farming families before Christmas. If there was any way I could get those payments out, believe you me, I've looked at this up and down, inside out, to try and do it. And the team are working hard now to get those payments out in the best time frame we possibly can.
Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, Minister. As you know, farmers operate like any other business, and they structure their finances around payment dates, and farmers have spent a significant amount of money in terms of introducing environmental measures on the assumption that they would receive payments in November to cover those costs. So with delays, they're unable to pay their bills, and then interest can accrue, and we can't have a situation where people are kind of left worse off when they sign up for a scheme to try and make, positive environmental impact. And I think it's really important to try and instill confidence in these schemes. And I think a way to kind of potentially restore that trust in the scheme would be to ensure that farmers receive payments as soon as possible. So I hear what you're saying, but advance payments are common practice. I'm wondering if you can consider administering some proportion of the acres payments to all of the applicants before Christmas.
Yeah, I considered that to see if there was some way that could be done. The acres payment, though, it's a blend of it's within the Common Agricultural Policy scheme and framework, and it's co-funded nationally and with European money. So we have to work and have an audit trail in relation to how we make those payments. 85% is what will be paid to 18,000 farmers this month. 18,000, 2/3 of the farmers in the general stream will get their 85% advance. Wanted to be able to do it for everyone, but that's not possible. But the team are working to try and deliver that now as quickly as possible. But we are, because it's a Common Agricultural Policy scheme, required to follow certain processes, and we simply can't step out of that, otherwise we won't be able to draw down the European funding. I can take a different approach and a more flexible approach for nationally funded schemes. So, for example, for the liming scheme, which is purely national funding, I'm paying an advance payment to all of those by the end of this year, because I have more discretion there. But with the CAP programme, you have to have it very, very clearly laid out and administered and auditable as well, so that we actually draw down that funding. So every effort is being made. As I say, we wanted to be able to pay, but this year everybody was working massively hard to try and deliver it in December. But we've run out, despite all those efforts, we've run out of road in terms of getting it done by the end of December. So we're into February now in relation to the cooperation stream measures, but others will continue to be paid in the meantime.
Minister, when the Acres programme was expanded from 30,000 to 46,000 earlier this year, farmers obviously signed up to it on the assumption that if the government were allowing 16,000 extra applications, then there was capacity in the system to administer that. Clearly not. The department controls the scoring of the scheme, controls how many people can apply, but between the number of applicants and the complications of processing the new scheme, somehow obviously the department were overwhelmed. The payments were supposed to be administered in November. I'm wondering, my first question was, how many people are affected by this? At what point did it become clear to the department that it would be impossible to process every application before the scheduled date? Had a capacity review been conducted within the department before the scheme was expanded? And why, when it became clear the payments would not be made on time, were farmers not made aware immediately?
Yeah, first of all, we did make it clear immediately, Deputy Cairns, whenever it was clear it couldn't be done and we'd run out of road. That was about a week and a half ago. Up to that point in time, we were working the basis of trying to move heaven and earth to see could we get both the cooperation and general scheme paid by the end of this year. So then we made it clear and outlined what was going to be possible and where we were, despite everyone's best efforts. And listen, you're right, it put my decision to accept all 46,000 in, put massive pressure on the system right throughout, put massive pressure on advisors. We give them extra time in relation to facilitating the scoring up to the end of September, and they really stepped up and worked massively hard to do that. It also put massive pressure on my own staff in the department, and really massive pressure. But listen, it was the right decision to make, and I stand by it, because if I hadn't made that decision, we'd only have 30,000 farmers in Acres this year, not 46,000. And now all 46,000 were able to participate, and they all will get a payment. I had hoped, and I had put massive pressure on the staff to get that payment delivered by the end of December. That's not going to be possible for a number, so the payment won't arrive for those in the cooperation stream until the end of February. But that's much better than getting no payment at all.
Thank you.
And if I had only stuck with the 30,000, Deputy Cairns, there'd be 16,000 farmers who wouldn't get a payment any time this year and wouldn't get it in February either. So every effort, and I continue to keep the pressure on, and all of the team are working massively hard to deliver on this and to ensure farmers get paid as quickly as possible for the great enthusiasm they've shown. And then next year to make sure that it happens, and will be in the second year of the scheme, it'll be up and running and flowing in a much smoother way, and we'll make sure the payments are made within the calendar year.